Unit 1, Day 3 notes. Today we're going to be talking about finding distance and midpoint on number lines and coordinate planes. Do you know what it means to find the absolute value of something? The absolute value is the distance from a number to 0 on the number line. So think about it in your past. Is distance ever negative? Can you say the distance between my house and HEB is negative 3.3 miles? Not usually. So distance is not negative. And the reason it's not negative is all you're doing is just counting the amount of space between you and 0. You're going to see right here, this is the absolute value symbol. These two red bars, they're not ones. They're an actual symbol like parentheses and things like that. So this is an absolute value sign. So anytime a number enters inside the absolute value sign, it doesn't matter what type of number it is, but the outcome will always be positive because we're referring to distance. So let's practice real quickly. If we want to find the absolute value of 4, 4 is located right here. And the absolute value, again, is the distance 4 is from 0. So let's count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is 4 units from 0 on the number line, so that means the absolute value of 4 is 4. Let's try one more time. Negative 3 is located right here. Negative 3 is 1, 2, 3 spaces from 0 on the number line, so that means that the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. Again, anytime you're dealing with absolute value, it doesn't matter what types of numbers enter into those signs, the outcome will always be positive, as I just demonstrated, because absolute value, again, means the distance it is from 0 on the number line. To find the distance between two numbers on a number line, you will take the absolute value of the difference of the numbers. So your textbook or an online source will show you a formula that looks similar to this. Your absolute, ooh, I shouldn't have used yellow, I'm sorry. But your absolute value bar, and inside the absolute value bar, it's going to have x2 minus x1. Okay, so that would be your textbook. A shorter, nicer version of the same formula we're going to do in this class is we're still going to have our absolute value bars, but it's a lot simpler than that because I doubt you remember what this little 2 represents at the bottom of the x. It's just a placeholder. So we're going to say point minus point, the absolute value of point minus point. So now, knowing that fact, it's always best when you're dealing with the number line to put the point that is on the right first in the formula. So for A, we're going to find the distance between A and C. So the first thing we must draw is our absolute value sign. Now look at our number line at the top. C is on the right, so that value will come first. C is located at positive 2. Then we put our minus, which is always going to be the case because that's part of the formula. And then A, which has a value of negative 5. Anytime you have a negative number, you want to put it in parentheses, so negative 5. So now you have options, but what I would do is just pick up the calculator and the absolute value sign can be found under math, I believe, and yes. So I hit math, the button underneath alpha, and then I arrowed over to num, and it's the first option, so hit 1. So there's our absolute value sign. And now all you need to do is type 2 minus, open parentheses, negative 5, close your parentheses, and hit enter. So the distance between A and C is 7. I would love to see the formula every time on these problems, please. I would love to see the formula every single time. Yes, you can simply count on a problem like this, but I gotta see that we understand how to use formulas, not only for a simple problem like this, but how you can enter it in the calculator as well, so that when you have a test and it's timed, you can get there faster. Um, Now let's find the distance between B and D. The first thing I would do every single time is draw your absolute value bar and draw the minus sign. That's a must every single time. Now you can enter in the information that is necessary. And again, look at your number line, see who's on the right. D is on the right, so he will come first. So put 4 for D, and B is at negative 2. You can put minus 2 in parentheses for B on the left, on the right. Now you can do this without a calculator. You should be able to, and it might be faster without a calculator. What you should remember from algebra is that when you have a set of double negatives, minus a negative here, that will turn into an automatic plus sign. So essentially, it'll be the absolute value of 4 plus 2, which is nice. We don't have any negatives anymore. So that means it'd be the absolute value of 6. Beautiful. And the absolute value of 6 we can do without a calculator. It's simply going to be 6. Because again, we talked about it. Absolute value means the distance something is from 0 on the number line. Sorry, let me get this pop-up off my screen. All right. 6A says find the length of segment BC. It's essentially asking what is the distance from B to C. That's all it's saying. So if it says find the length, it's still saying find the distance like we did in the first few. So again, first things first, draw your absolute value sign and your minus sign. Now when I look at the number line, C is on the right, so C will come first. A is located at 2. B is located at negative 2. So put him in parentheses. Again, we have a double negative situation. So double negative means plus positive. So it would be 2 plus 2, which would be the absolute value of 4, which is simply 4. So that's how you find distance. Now we'll learn how to find the midpoint between two numbers on a number line. The textbook formula will tell you that it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2. But something a little more simpler we're going to use will simply be point plus point divided by 2. Alrighty. So we're using A and C again for the first one. So A is located at -5 plus C located at 2 all over 2. So take it in steps. -5 plus 2 you have to do first. So -5 plus 2 will give me a -3 over 2. So now you would take -3 divided by 2 and you would end up at a -1.5. So -1.5 would be the midpoint between A and C. So when you're writing the formula, which I have to see every time, write what is there always every single time. So what I'm saying would be the plus sign, the fraction line or division bar, and the 2. Those come standard no matter what. So write them first automatically. Then simply add the points for that situation. So we're looking at B and D. B is at -2. Go ahead and put it in parentheses. And D is at 4. So again, you must take care of the top part first. -2 plus 4, which would give us a +2. Then you got to bring your division bar and your 2. And then 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. Now real quickly, I can demonstrate how you can plug this into the calculator. So to get the fraction on your calculator, you're going to hit alpha y equals 1. All right. So now I could type in parentheses -2 close parentheses plus 4 and then drop down to the denominator and type 2. Hit enter and I get 1. So again, I need to see your formula and your substitution into the formula. But yes, you're welcome to grab a calculator after that step and type it in. By all means, please use a calculator if you're unsure of something. But I just need to make sure I see what you put into the calculator. So don't just give me the final answer. Show me the formula that you use when you're using your calculators. Now we're going to find the midpoint of BC. Again, put my plus sign, my division bar, and my 2 first and foremost. B is located at -2. C is located at +2. So if I have a -2 and a +2, what are they going to do with each other? Cancel out, exactly. So I'm going to have 0 at the top divided by 2. And 0 divided by 2 is simply just 0. All right, our next question says, if D is the midpoint of BE, notice there's no E at the top of our number line, find the location of point E. So we're going to find the location of E. So D is the midpoint. So the first thing we would have to do is find the distance between B and D. Since D is supposed to be the midpoint, D will be halfway from, in other words, if you want to draw an illustration, there's going to be some segment BE where D is smack dab in the middle. And we talked about midpoint before. So we need to first find the distance between B and D because that'll be the same between D and E. So to find B, the distance from B to D, we use the distance formula we just talked about with the absolute value sign and the minus. Those are standard, so do those first. And then It's right point minus left point. So D is on the right, so we're going to put 4 first, and then B, -2, which goes in parentheses. So we have a double negative again, so that would end up being 4 plus 2. So that would give us absolute value of 6. And actually, we did this distance before, which is just 6. Beautiful. So we know the distance from B to D is 6. So the distance from D to E as an ego should also be 6. So if D is located at +4, I would have to add 6 more to find E. So point D plus 6 would be point E. And D is at 4. So that means E is at 10. Okay. Now this one is to practice when you don't have a number line and you have large numbers. So it's a good way to make sure you understand the formula. I'll leave you to work this one out on your own. And then please, by all means, show me how you do. Now we want to talk about fractional distance because we don't always have midpoints. Sometimes we just have a point between, like we mentioned on segment addition lesson. So to find a fractional distance between two numbers, it requires a series of 3 steps. The first thing you're going to do is find the distance that you're looking for. So we're going to find the distance from A to F. So to find the distance from A to F, we draw our absolute value, which is standard, and our subtraction sign, which is also expected. Now look at your number line, and F is on the right, so it will come first. It's located at 5. A is on the left, so it comes second. It's at -7. We have a double negative, so that would be the absolute value of 5 plus 7, which is the absolute value of 12. And the absolute value of 12 is simply 12. So that's step 1. The second step is to take that distance times the fraction in the problem. And the fraction in the problem is 1/6. So 1/6 times 12. And you could grab your calculator to do this multiplication, but I'm going to do it by hand. It's a little faster for me. So it would end up being 12/6, which ends up being 2. So now the third step is to take that distance that you found in step 2. This is your fractional distance. And you're going to add it to the starting value. Our starting value was A. And we're adding our fractional distance. And this will be the final answer we need. So our starting value was A, which is at -7. Our fractional distance was 2. And if I take -7 plus 2, I would get 5. So point X would be located at, sorry, -5. -7 plus 2 is a -5. So point X would be located at -5, and -5 would be 1/6 of the distance between A and F. That's how to interpret that. So That was how we find distance, midpoint, and fractional distance on a number line. We're going to pause and take a break before we do coordinate plane.